perhaps the most unorthodox discovery for a podcast guest. One of Tom's employees actually reached out to me via LinkedIn. I was looking to get some time set up to chat because the boy was just curious, and I was told Tom is currently in Thailand, where he currently sits as we speak right now. We welcome to the table Tom Libelt. Tom, how are we doing?
We're doing good, man. I'm excited. It's always nice.
Tom, you might be our first international guest on the pod, which we'll have to get your address to ship you a trophy, medallion, medal to put on your wall behind you.
Actually, after looking at your backgrounds, I feel like I should have put like a picture of Biggie up there too.
Well, I have to tell you that the platform that we're sitting on right now, of Tough to Say, is catered towards our guests. So we're trying to paint our guests in the best light. So really, you've come to be gassed up. I mean, here's two guys who think fondly of you without even really knowing you, but that's kind of why we're here. And honestly, great way to start out this interview, because there is no shortage of footage of you and of people describing you and your business out there in the world. But just for our audience, maybe for those who are less curious of diving deep into the rabbit hole, could we just get an brief overview about who you are, what you do on a day-to-day basis, talking about maybe a little bit of this course marketing stuff that we've been referencing. Let's just dive in there, and then we can branch out from there. And, of course, questions along the way. I am down to fields, open conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long journey. I moved to the U.S. from Poland when I was around 10. I sold weed in school, like most kids my age. I was able to get in on a record store when I was around 16, so took some of that weed money and got two older guys to go in on the record store. I was a DJ back then. We did like bars, clubs, raves, which is a good life for a kid.
Of course.
Like I didn't realize that most of the other 16-year-olds were just boring. And, people like got into my life like, wow, we want to be in this, because it was just constant stuff. To me, it was normal. But, I didn't realize, like, I just had more ambition, I think. Then I went to Full Sail, which was audio engineering school. Moved to New York to become an audio engineer. I got into the music much more. We in my neighborhood, we created a hip-hop group. It was a Polish group. Got a lot of hits on the radio, on the Polish radios. At the document.
Can we get a name of the group? Because I would love to know the name of the group.
I'll send it to you after. I think it'll be hard to say here. But yeah, we did that, 2 albums, and I felt like I want to go back in business. So, like my play at that time, and this was all in New York, so you kind of know the streets of New York, how fun selling on the streets of New York is. I was going into every corporation that would hire a salesperson. So Nestle, UniFirst, Hilti, all these big companies. And my play was let them train me, and I'm going to hit the streets or the phones or whatever they want me to do. Get pretty good, hit my goals or almost hit my goals, leave and go on to the next one. Because I wanted sales training. I thought it's a win-win. I make you some money. They didn't feel that way, but that was my play. Like for 3 years I did that. I sold insurance, like all types of stuff, warranties, anything, moving company, services. I mean, like any nonsense that I could care less about. But at the same time, I thought if I can sell things which I don't like and completely don't care about, when I actually want to sell something of my own, it's going to be a breeze, which it is. After a couple of years of that, I kind of got fed up with the whole training and corporate world and being a number and a like a clog in a wheel, because that's what we are in companies, really. Even if they say like, oh, you're special, you're not a number. I'm like, boss, there's a number on my check.
Preach. Preach.
Yeah. So I was very impulsive after that. I was like, I got to get back in business. So I flew around the country and I found a coffee shop around Atlanta, which I'm like, oh, I'm buying this. It's nice. It looks good. I don't drink coffee. Horrible idea. Horrible idea. Like I came in, I was like, the staff's super excited. I'm like, yeah, this place is cool. They're like, you want to come with us for training and try this stuff? I'm like, I don't actually like it. So there was a disconnect. Like we ran it for a while, but I was like, I'm not feeling this. And the thing I didn't realize about food businesses, you need so many licenses. You have people coming in, health staffs like certificates. You have the fire department coming through, making sure like all the regulations are met. Like that was just complete nonsense. I'm like I'm explaining myself to people that have no reason being here. They're not in business. I was like, So after that, I thought the first constraint for my next business is I'm going to be location independent. Like, I will not have a location where someone can come into and point things at and be like, I don't like this, you got to pay a fine. So that was my move into the online space. I was like, no one's going to come into my office with my laptop because they don't even know where I am.
Yeah.
Right? So that was the first constraint. And I was on the internet, this was maybe 12, 13 years ago. And looking through these forums, we didn't have much stuff back then to really look through. And someone said SEO is a good idea. And you always take, ideas from the internet. I buy Bitcoin, sure, why not? So that was the first thing I started, was an SEO company. I had no idea what I was doing. I went to my mechanic, to my restaurant that I go to all these places that I know. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to get you more money. I'm going to do it through SEO. Pay me. And I was a good sales guy, so they did. And no one knew. I had no clue what I was doing. I was getting paid to learn. But again...
Well, that sounds like a recurring theme every time
it
you
is.
stepped up.
It is.
You didn't really know what you were doing, whether it was sales, coffee, or SEO.
It's
again.
It's a recurring theme. But the thing is, I knew how to sell. And the one reason I picked SEO is because people said that it's super easy to rank back then. It was super easy. Ranking a mechanic, in a suburb of Atlanta was just complete nonsense. I just threw 10 backlinks at them, boom, you're ranking now. Because no one was doing it. And the biggest play back then was when the Google Maps first came out. So just me putting people on Google Maps, that got them business. And they were just like, oh man, this is killer. I was like, yeah, I know. But I had no business cards, no websites. That actually didn't even happen until 2 years into my biz. I was selling an investor in New York who came to create a fencing company in Atlanta. And he's like, I love everything you're saying. Can I see your website? I was like, huh? For what? And he's like, well, don't you have a website? I was like, no. Why would I? Why do you want to see where I'm ranking? You found me. My clients are ranking. That's what we should care about. He's like, yeah, that makes sense. And he still bought from me, but that was the day I was like, oh yeah, I should pay someone to quickly build this thing and maybe rank that too. So my way of starting things was always to make some money and then figure out the back end. Instead of the opposite, where people will sit there and create business plans. I actually did create a business plan in college once, and my teacher kind of laughed, gave me a D, but he said it's kind of legit. And I was like, figure out idea, make money, everything else will take care of itself.